I mean, people always say, like, you know, acting is listening, but I think for me, writing is listening too. I spend a lot of time listening to what my characters are trying to tell me about who they are.
And then when I wrote it, I was trying to almost create a person who is more brave than I had the ability to be, who is more wildly herself.
So you honed it down. How long is a long draft? Like,
It was about 350 pages.
Oh.
Don't judge your drafts right away. Don't tell yourself, oh, it's dumb, I don't like it, and throw it away. Really get it in front of people. Have readings. Like, there's sort of this feeling of like, has this not been done? Because I don't know why it hasn't been. I think it should be. I think when I finished the scripts, I had co-written some other scripts, and I had written some things on my own, but this was when I finished this one, I thought, you know, I've always wanted to direct, and I never felt ready. I never felt like I had enough experience, enough time, enough hours under my belt, enough time being on set and around directors. And then I thought, you know, it's time to jump, kid. You gotta do it. Like, if it even though it's scary, you have to give yourself the chance. So I decided to do it, and but thank you. And I'm a big believer, and I think structure is so deep in us. Like, I think it's so
well, it's your friend,
inherent.
right?
Yeah.
You can use it.
And it's so, we put it even in stories we tell our friends, or in emails we write, we want it. It's how we create meaning. So I feel like sometimes kind of coming at it from an analytical way, it's like denying your birthright, which is story structure. Your birthright is story structure. You have it. Like, you don't need to teach yourself how to do it. You have it by the fact that you exist with language. I just think that that's true. I don't know exactly. I mean, I do know that when I'm writing and when I'm directing, I keep thinking about what am I passionate about what moves me, what do I want to see, and I keep trying to be honest with myself about what is it that excites me, and I always know that I'm on the right track when I have this feeling of, I can't believe no one's made this movie. Like, there's sort of this feeling of like, has this not been done? Because I don't know why it hasn't been. I think it should be, and I think that there's something of that, but I don't know. I'm a really emotional person, so I think that's one of my
Do you agree with
talents.
me though? Because when Now, you've received immense praise for your writing, along with an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Can you describe your perfect setting and setup for writing?
My perfect setup for writing is a place with a bed, a single bed, a bed for just me, because I like to take naps a lot while I'm writing. It would have a slanted ceiling. It would be very small. It would be like a secret door situation, so no one would know I was in there. It'd be lots of space where I can put stuff up on the wall, lots of books, but cozy and secret.
I wasn't expecting that to be so elaborate.
Yes.
But
I have it planned in a notebook. I mean, people always say, like, you know, acting is listening. But I think for me, writing is listening too. I spend a lot of time listening to what my characters are trying to tell me about who they are. And they're always telling you. And it's the mysterious part of writing where you have all this craft and you spend all this time making it as good as it can be. And then at the same time, your unconscious knows more than you do. And you have to kind of keep that channel open. Well, you know, I take a really long time to write the scripts, and when I write, I wish it took me less time, but I feel like part of what I do is, it's grounded in something that's very close to my heart, but I really invent these characters and I try to let them talk to me, and I think in an interesting way, writing, they always say acting is about listening, but also writing is about listening. It's about listening to your characters, because you'll find that they tell you things that you didn't even know that they had in them, and then it's the mystery of writing and where it comes from in you, or where it's been gathered from. And I just spend a lot of time with these people, and so by the time I have a draft of the movie, it's really a representation of just, it's like I've hung out with them for a couple of years.
So how do you just say bye to them?
Oh, It's so hard. You know, well, the lovely thing about filmmaking is that it's this progression of, because it's such a collaborative art form, that bit by bit you give it to other people. So, you know, in terms of like when I collaborate with my cinematographer and talk about, you know, how it's going to look, or the costume designer, or the production designer, and then you give each of the characters to the actors. And I really feel like as a director, something that's important to me is to really pass the torch of the character to the actor, to say, now belongs to you. It doesn't belong to me. I don't know the answer. So it's yours now. Because I feel like that's how they can bring their whole self to it, is if they feel like they own it.
Hey, when did you first start developing this film? I mean, in your head.
In my head.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a little hard to know exactly how long it takes me to write something, because I'm constantly writing, and then I don't know what pieces will become something. But what I do know is that I have a draft, a very long draft of this movie from the end of December of 2013. So at least a couple years.
So you honed it down. How long is a long draft? Like.
There was about 350 pages.
Oh,
there were a lot more dances.
Okay.
Yeah.
A long draft screenplay or a long draft treatment, prose?
Screenplay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and I mean, some of the scenes didn't go anywhere. It wasn't like 350 pages of something that was narratively cohesive. It was 350 pages of stuff that then I kind of looked at and figured out what felt essential and what felt like the core of the story to me.
Yeah.
And it's I don't really decide what a core of a story is before I write. I write to figure out what the story is, and I think that the characters end up talking to you and telling you what they want to be doing and what is important to them. And then, so in some ways, your job is to listen as much as to write, and to listen to what these characters that are coming through you are telling you.
Yeah.
What is your advice to a young person who wants to pursue screenwriting?
Oh. Are you a young person who wants to pursue screenwriting? Oh, that's great. Well, I would say outside of writing, which I mean, write as much as you can, which is really difficult. Writing is hard, and I would say to the subject of writing, don't judge your drafts right away. Don't tell yourself, oh, it's dumb, I don't like it, and throw it away. Really get it in front of people. Have readings is a really easy way to just hear it out loud and kind of get it outside of your own head. And, you know, the prospect of making a movie can be daunting, but getting friends together who are actors or even other just people that you know and you like to just hear it out loud is cheap, and it's accessible, and it forces you to listen to your work with new ears. And I would say, other than that, I think make your own, direct your own, if short films or anything, because I think screenwriting is so much, you know, it's always a blueprint for the movie, and I think directing what you've written is a good litmus test to see if it's working. So I would say expand, keep writing, but also then direct it and see how it works on its feet and how it's put together. And you can direct something, you know, on your iPhone, you know, shoot it on your iPhone, edit it on your computer, or, you know, any smartphone, or anybody who has a camera on a phone. I think that's I've seen great films made that way, and I've been deeply impressed by what's possible. So I would say use the tools around you and just keep putting it on its feet. That would be my advice. To me, I feel like even though there are plenty of movies about a coming of age of particularly young men that's about personhood, I think generally with girls it's about one guy, and I felt like that just wasn't true to either my life or the lives of the women I had observed
growing up and now, and I felt like in a way I wanted to start with a premise of like, well, what if there's two guys and they're both wrong? And also to make the main love story between her and her mother.
Right, so is that the cliche you wanted to avoid from other high school?
Definitely. I mean, I love those movies, but I also felt like that's just not the truth to me.
Right.
I always wanted to be part of the world of like actors, writers, directors, people, you know, in film and in theater making things, but it felt very out of reach. Like it felt like a very pie in the sky kind of dream. I also got rejected from every training program I applied to.
Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't get into. There's like BFA programs like UCLA, Boston University, New York University, Juilliard. I didn't get it, and I was like, that's not a great sign. There were jobs around film and around theater that were, you know, you'd have to work really hard and it was still hard to get, but there were just a lot of different jobs around it. And it seemed like that might be something I would be able to do if I was sort of willing to do anything. And that's kind of, by the time I graduated from college, I was like, I just want to be in that world. Sort of any way they'll take me. And so I did sort of everything that came my way that I could possibly do, because I thought I'm probably going to land somewhere if I just keep going at it.
The truth is, I mean, I'm from Sacramento, and I did go to Catholic high school, and I really very much wanted to make a movie that took place in Sacramento because I love it very much, and it's my home, and I have really strong ties there. My family's there. My best friends from growing up are there, and so that's all very much grounded in what I knew. But the character of Lady Bird was actually something that both Saoirse and I realized when we started working on this together. It was not who I was when I was in high school. I was I never made anyone call me by a different name. I didn't dye my hair bright red. I was a very like rule following kid. And I think we related on that level. And then when I wrote it, I was trying to almost create a person who was more brave than I had the ability to be, who was more wildly herself. And it wasn't until I saw Saoirse do it that I felt like I got to meet this flawed heroine that I had made up.
And so I think in some ways, writing this script and writing this character and inventing this character was a way for me to explore something that I wasn't able to do as a person. And I think, you know, she's a flawed heroine, but she's certainly someone I really admire. She's courageous and out there and kind of distinctly herself, even if she's lying about who she is. I like that about her.